Howard Hughes is there hanging out with all the boys, and you're sitting there in the corner as a young kid eating pancakes with your uncle, who is basically talking with Howard Hughes about the Integratron. Oh my gosh, this is a fantastic script. I can't wait for you to get this movie done.
Yeah. It's funny. I've literally, the whole movie. This has been a. Actually, there's the making of Giant Rock, which is its own odyssey. When you talk about the hero's journey, I mean, it's really tough. And I've had several things. Several, I guess, I would call them missteps. Not by anything. Just the people that were involved with this thing here. So I'm very careful, looking for the right people, right money, because it has to be done right. And also, too, when you think about this, this actually goes. The whole movie really, and the screenplay is condensed. I've condensed about 20 years into about 2 years, but still, it's an era piece. So it's not a small or low budget or cottage film. This thing is a bona fide feature film with real people. Okay, with real, with outstanding celebrities. Like even when I talk about my uncle used to argue with what's his name? The Honeymooner guy. What's his name?
Jackie Gleason. Yeah,
Jackie Gleason. There are tapes of my uncle arguing with Jackie Gleason, because Jackie Gleason was a huge UFO fan. He was so into it. He wanted to find out so badly about this. So they would actually argue on the Long John Neville show, which is at night, late at night. Now, and here's the interesting thing: you've heard about the Jackie Gleason story with Richard Nixon, where literally he was shown, and all his homes were built like like spaceships, and literally he had actually saw an alien down in Florida that Richard Nixon actually brought them, and that story is fairly well verified. About Jackie. So Jackie Gleason really went from a skeptic, or a partial skeptic, to a really hardcore believer before he died about the whole UFO phenomenon. And it's because his best friend was Richard Nixon. And Richard Nixon showed him, and so when you get into the whole, like the whole Bob Lazar, the whole, Area 51, all this stuff, everything is, it's almost like a flower being blooming, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the irony, like, when we heard about Area 51, and then you look at this whole composite of various movies and what have you, and it's very, very, it's some are incredulous, like the Men in Black, which are actually, there's actually a lot of truth about the Men in Black, but they made it a cartoon and they did a distraction.
Right.
And again, the enemy of consciousness is distraction. And I guess the argument that I have is compelling. Right now, if you watch television, literally it's nothing but a huge distraction as far as, especially the news. With that, and of what it's meaningless, it's gibberish, and nothing is actually ever getting done. But we have this world of distraction, and it's done on purpose. Well, the same thing is that. And this is what consciousness is about: is to literally look at things the way, the way they are, good or bad, et cetera, and just get to the bottom of all this stuff and move on and take that whole thing. Well, again, like the movie The Men in Black, that was there's a lot of truth to that, and bottom line is they made it a cartoon. And of course, there's some movies that have been fantastic. When you'd mentioned a movie that early on, I think it was done in the 50s with the I forget what the name of it is. The time the man said still. What were you mentioning earlier?
Yeah, The Day the Earth Stood Still. Right.
The Day the Earth Stood Still. That's a classic. And then you have, like, for instance, movies like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which are actually really good. And incidentally, my uncle was a technical consultant on with that movie too, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh.
So there are some. It comes out a little bit in bits and bits and bits. But again, for the most part, what we're doing what we're seeing is like the governor of Arizona, after the Phoenix Lights show up in a gray alien suit. As far as that, and we're always being distracted, and it's on purpose. So like shows like you, when I get invited to a show like yours or whatever, I mean, I've done a lot of different shows. It's an automatic yes, simply because I hope that I can offer an antidote, because I have this perspective of the history, and I kind of know where this thing started. And of course, I've been researching my whole entire life about all this stuff here, and I hope to be the antidote of some of the distraction to basically get people to think in terms of what this is about and who they are. And of course, trying to answer some of the really more important questions of, why are people abducted? Which is an aching question that I feel like I've kind of come to the conclusion as far as why. But we're living in this world, and we're at the precipice of this whole thing blowing up. So I'm like, I'm all in, as far as
you are, and you just tipped your hat there a second ago when you mentioned that you might have an inkling of what these alien abductions are all about. You can't leave us hanging there. Do you have an idea for us?
Well, actually, what it is that we are, this is, I had this. Boy, you talked about a transmission. You talked about a long night, and I had this transmission about this whole thing. What it's all about is that we literally are gold. We're literally the human race by this unique accident are literally one of the more powerful entities in the entire universe. We contain literally all the information and all the data to do whatever we want to do. As far as technology goes, we literally already have it. It's already innate. Through various exercises and things like that, we can literally communicate without cell phones. I mean, I know this sounds bizarre, and it's been proven scientifically that literally we can communicate without cell phones. We literally have everything within us to time travel. We have all these innate abilities that most of us don't know what to do with, and more, we're starting to see how that unfolds. So when you're looking for, especially the grays, which are basically they're deficient, and they're looking for the divine spark in us that we have, and that's our get out of jail free card. And as far as I know a lot of the various scientists are particularly worried about invasions and what have you. Well, we literally have the ability to thwart anything and to actually overcome anything. But it goes down to this main theory of clicking our heels. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz things. Listen, you could always go click your heels 3 times. Well, until Dorothy knew that she could click her. So I'm more than optimistic. Incidentally, I was extraordinarily pessimistic about concerns about artificial intelligence and things like that, having robots take us over, et cetera, et cetera. But the reason we have abductions is literally they're actually harvesting our essence, trying to harvest our magical essence to process it for themselves. Just like the Anunnaki came here for gold, because they needed the resources here. Well, we are a human resource. And that's what the abductions are about, is they're trying to pick off the divine and utilize that, reformulate it, and create their own life source out of it. It won't work, but that's the attempt. That's the main reason for abductions, as far as that. They're trying to literally create life, through our essence, which comes back to us, and most people don't realize the most important thing on this planet, and I'm not. This is not any kind of Pollyanna thing. This is by deduction, and what I've got is human life. We hold the cards, and literally that consciousness. Once as our consciousness evolves, however it does, and it could come through a pulse wave, and actually I'm anticipating that too, because within our DNA structure, we have such tremendous power. We can literally transform everything. So again, that's the why. We're important. Otherwise, why would they be doing this? What would be the purpose? There would be no purpose. We have this divinity that is so extraordinarily powerful. It's unimaginable. We are literally. Within this container, we are something extraordinary. And I think, I wonder if people really got that message and really knew that, how their days would be changed and how their perception of their own lives would be changed. Because I think the imprint, once you understand that, it's indelible. Literally. And that's, and again, through my own abduction experience, which were traumatic. And anybody tells me, incidentally, because of the story, but I had a film crew and a group, and what they did is one of my producers, he used to go out to the Rock, and they had their own sighting experience and an abduction experience. And I tried to get this girl on film that was actually taken. They actually saw her taken in the saucer. This is crazy stuff out of Giant Rock. And so I talked to her for hours, and I tried to get her on, because I had a little tidbit called The Real Truthers on my YouTube channel, and I was actually interviewing people that had been abducted and what have you. And I talked to her for hours, and it was amazing as far as her story, as far as that. But here's the problem: is that she couldn't emotionally handle that whole experience. And so when people tell me it's something, it's very difficult to handle being taken and abducted, being probed, and whatever, and that whole thing. It's a very difficult situation. So when people tell me, "Oh, I'd like to be abducted," I look at them with my eyes crossed. I don't think so. I'm not sure if you do or not.
I'll
but
bet.
Having said that, I wouldn't be me had I not experienced that. So.
Yeah. No, that's a really astonishing bottom line that you're saying here, is that we are gold on this little backwater planet in the Fibonacci curve of
hominoids with a gift. What it's hilarious. Literally. We're not. When people talk about this, knuckle dragging, as far as the whole thing is, that we were propelled. As far as that, but we have this gift of this divinity in us that is so amazing, and it's it's great. We're not, It's I had that, and incidentally, I had the experience. I was doing a radio show, and I was going to be on the show the next day, Terry Joyce's show. And she was on some network, and I was going to say this, and literally, that message is one that the powers that be don't want people to know.
Yes,
they really don't want. The whole conscious movement. You can tell by their actions that they want to prevent that message from getting out, because once you know that, you have no need for any government. You have no need for borders. All the things that people hold near and dear with their egos dissipate completely. And as far as this whole singularity, which is a concept I struggled with a long time ago. We're headed towards this singularity, but once you know that, then singularity occurs. And which is essentially we're all one.
Yes.
And so there it is. But we're all little sands on the beach, but we're little shinier spectacles in the whole universe. So So anyways,
That's
it's kind of yeah.
Listen, Chad, before we get out of here, we're only got about a minute or